I invite us all to find out how to embody your own, like, Aquarian liberated Mars. Hi there, this is Arakai Moon with Star Siren Astrology, coming to you in like full celebration mode to speak to the massively powerful ceremony of Mars and Saturn being retrograde. We've been in a huge ceremony of retrogrades this summer. At one point we had 7 planets in retrograde, and so I want to speak a little bit about the power and the beauty and the potency of retrogrades and what is actually going on when we have a planet retrograde. What does that mean for us personally and individually, and what does that mean for the collective when a planet goes retrograde? And I want to speak specifically to the journey of Saturn and Mars being retrograde and what that's meant for us, again, collectively and individually. And I also want to speak to this moment in the retrograde cycle, exactly where we are and what does that mean? Because to me, I feel like it's that moment when you imagine you're a grad school student and you've worked all this time, like doing all the homework assignments, taking all the credits and all the different classes that you need in order to get that pretty wrapped bouquet of degrees. And yet you find yourself at the finals, and so it's like, whoa, we've done all this work. Like, we went back and we, like, you know, we made the building blocks happen, we did all the homework, and we're finally through it. We can celebrate a little bit, you know, we feel that energy of like moving forward and that precipice of being in like a new chapter of life. And yet there's also that moment in finals where it's like the ceremony isn't quite over. Like, we're at the precipice of a new chapter of our life, and there's a lot been accomplished, a lot been learned, a lot been moved through and healed and grown, and all these things that we've done over the course of this summer. So this is a moment for an astrologer, I feel, to be able to speak to the grand ceremony at play, where we are in this part of the game, so that we keep our heads in the game, in a sense, so that we don't throw in the towel and kind of like get caught up and find ourselves back at square one, like in May when Mars first went retrograde, or in April when Saturn first went retrograde. So I invite you to stay tuned throughout this whole video to not only understand, you know, collectively a little bit of a taste of what's been going on, but I want to ask some deepening questions to be able to allow you to really tap into, like, personally, where has this touched you? Where are you at in the cycle? And like, how are you going to actually make the changes and build the foundation for those changes to last? So first I want to speak to retrogrades and like what is really going on when we have a planet in retrograde. Is the actual planet going backwards? How does that happen? You know, these are the kind of questions that we have when we hear these retrogrades are going on. And so I just want to clarify a little bit of what is happening when we're watching Mars in the sky. If you look out at the sky right now, Mars has been so powerful. It's like golden color. Normally it reflects this like red color, but for me, I've been seeing this like golden elixir quality of Mars like shining down, and it's been powerful. It seems like every time I look in the sky, there's Mars, you know? So what is happening with Mars when it goes retrograde is that we're watching it in the sky and it's moving along, and then it starts to slow down. And it gets really slow, and then all of a sudden it looks like it's almost standing still. And it appears that way from like our vision on Earth. It's like it's completely standstill. And then all of a sudden it's actually looks like it's moving backwards. Like, it no longer is moving through Aquarius. Now it's like moving back through the degrees it just traveled in Aquarius, and then all the way into Capricorn is the journey that we've just been on right now. So that's why they call it a planet retrograde, is because it actually looks like the planet is moving backwards. It's moving back through the same degrees in which it just came, through the same sign, potentially back into even a different sign. And then it starts to move forward again. So it makes it to where this planet actually traces over its same degrees or steps, if you will, 3 different times. Instead of Mars touching only one point in the astrological wheel every 2 years, it makes it to where Mars traverses over those same points 3 times. So that's really powerful in itself. It means that Mars is going back and forth over that same area, pretty much the same area of our consciousness of our development that part of the wheel of the zodiac represents. And so as you can see, if you have personal planets in that degree of where it's moving back and forth over, then it's going to highlight and activate these different parts of your ego, of your journey, of your personality and your developmental process more strongly. It's also going to affect what house do those degrees lie in your own chart. So if you look at 9 degrees in Aquarius all the way to 28 degrees in Capricorn, what house does that fall in? It's going to kind of reveal to you what's the stage that Mars is kind of activating, that this retrograde, that's this refinement, this challenge is kind of like highlighting for you personally where it's showing up in your life. And so that's a really powerful way to work with these retrogrades personally. You can also look at where is the opposite side of that, so where is its polarity? If Mars is over here in early Aquarius to late Capricorn retrograde, and then look all the way over to its polarity point of late Cancer, early Leo, and then also look at those squaring points. So where does Mars square? Happens to be late Aries, early Taurus, and late Libra, early Scorpio. And so anybody with those placement in that like cross T is gonna feel that more powerfully, and that's kind of where it's like, okay, it's time. It's got like your evolutionary number on it. So those are some really amazing tips on how you can start to work with these different transits, especially retrogrades, but really any transits, by looking at the degrees in which they fall in, and then looking at that degree on your chart and seeing what house system, what planet lies there, that sort of thing. And another quality to retrogrades that I wanted to speak to is that when a planet is moving retrograde, it actually looks like it's closer, like it's more magnified somehow in the skies. So they have been saying that Mars has been actually closer to Earth than it's been in the last 15 years. And so to me, what that means when a planet is closer to Earth, I mean, we feel it when the moon is like closer to Earth. They call it a supermoon, and everyone's emotions are like heightened. It's like this magnifying lens of what the moon is drawing out into people. It's like the collective really can feel it. Even animals feel it. They start to get like on edge, or they kind of get crazy and wily, and they run out into the streets because they're like chasing their loves, or they like hide away because they feel the potency of whatever is happening. And however you deal with that is your own thing and is their own thing. But with Mars, but with a planet in retrograde, it's almost as if that planet is being like, hey, pay attention to me. Like, hey, this is my medicine. This is my message. And right now, I'm close. I'm closer than ever. I'm on a magnifying lens to your psyche. It's kind of popping up out of the cosmos, if you will, to like bring up something from our subconscious, something that planet represents inside of our deep subconscious. And so that's a really powerful way to like start to pay attention to what planets are retrograde, what planets in the sky when you look out, like who are you constantly looking at? What are you drawn to when you look out into that vast, mysterious, overwhelming sky of potential? Like, what is that one point that you keep focusing on? And sometimes that's the actual point that you're meant to take in, as your medicine, as a part of your deep personal evolution. The way that they're saying, like, this is my medicine, evolve this, pay attention to this, like, work it out. I'm gonna track back over it, back and forth until you get it, kind of thing. It's like peeling the layers of an onion, and so that we really start to get down to our core of whatever kind of shift that we need to really work through. And the way that the retrogrades work is that it literally feels like we're moving backwards sometimes. It feels like we're being asked to like take a step back. Like with Mercury in retrograde, it's like tie up loose ends. What have you not finished? What karmic ties or communication, what bills, what things need to be really resolved and tied up in order for you to fully move forward in your life. And Mars being retrograde is kind of the same thing. It was like, whoa, before you build, before you actualize, before you move your energy in the world, like take a step back, here's a roadblock, here's a frustration, here is a no, where you're like, here's a stop sign, you know. And why do we have these? Like, that's why we feel like it's a celebratory thing when it goes forward. It's like, because thankfully we got a green light, you know. We're like, okay, we've been wanting to move, like we're kind of like moving, actualizing creative beings. And so we like it when we have those green lights, when we have that go full force. But you know, there's a powerful thing about being able to take a step back, about going inside, about having those roadblocks show us something about our intentions, our motives, our true desires. Like, are your creations in right alignment with authentically who you are? You know, are you collaborating with the right people that get this dream, that really do this? Is your partner like that person that's really co-creating and supporting you? What dynamics inside of your life, be it through relationships or family and home, and be it finances or creative projects or whatever it is that since May, Mars has kind of been bringing up the places where you're blocked, the places where you know you want to move forward, and you've been kind of getting that frustration, or maybe even just like, hey, it's not the time. Some people just are like, hey, I'm in the flow, I don't feel like it's happening, whatever, you know. However you deal with it, you know, what has it been trying to invite you into? Wherever you've been feeling it, and however you've responded, it's maybe different for you. You know, for some it brought up a lot of frustrations, a lot of need to break free. You know, Mars in Aquarius, it's this really powerful drive to like actually break free and liberate from stuck patterns, be it in, like I said, relationships or finances or your work in the world. But there has also been this quality to the Mars in retrograde that it's been conjuncting the south node of the moon that's also in Aquarius, and having that quality of retrograde means it's kind of like we're working through the shadow, we're working through some of this karma, and sometimes with that deep energy and desire to break free and to liberate oneself can also be this tendency of like slashing and burning and like blaming and like, you know, just leaving, disassociating, like fracturing oneself. You know, these are the karmic tendencies of Aquarius, of needing to free itself of the conditions of society and family and of itself so strong that it actually fractures itself away from the community, away from different parts of itself. You know, if you free yourself from one role and you only go into another role, but you haven't allowed this other part to be integrated, then essentially you're separating that part of yourself from yourself. So this is a time of really needing to see those patterns of blame and of sabotage and of disassociation, like wherever it's left us isolated and alienated and disconnected, have been huge markers, you know, for us to be able to find a new pathway, to truly liberate ourselves, to truly integrate this freedom. So I'd like to ask a couple questions just so you can take this idea of Mars being retrograde and what that's meant to you, so that it can allow you to, I invite you to get your chart out and take a look at where it lies in your chart, what house system, what planets, and just free write some of these questions out so you can feel into like where you are in this cycle, and then how are you going to move ahead? How are you going to move through the last portion of this retrograde in an effective way that creates, like I said, lasting change? It's beyond just liberating yourself, but it's about reintegrating and really building the foundations that truly support that change and truly support you being that liberated individual, living out your ability to be authentic and expressive and creative and in your true feelings and your joy. That's why we had all these eclipses in Leo Aquarius. It's like needing to find ways to heal that axis between the Aquarius and the Leo, like between the radical freedom and the collective like mind frame and the collective like vision of Aquarius and the actual personal joy and authenticity of like who that Leo heart, you know, wants to shine. And again, I just want to reiterate that in mid-May is when Mars moved into Aquarius. The day after the new moon, September 10th, Mars will move back into Aquarius. And then all of September up until October 8th, it will be tracing through those same degrees of Aquarius. So imagine that Mars in mid-May was bringing up some of these things inside of us that we wanted to liberate, that we wanted to break free of, that we wanted to activate in our life, that we wanted to build, you know. And a lot of things happen this summer in order to show us like why we are not able to like be living in that, be creating in that, you know, showing us things inside of ourselves, in our relationships, and again inside of our, you know, work or whatever it is, that place in you that it was really highlighting. And on June 26th, Mars went retrograde. So Mars touched that 9th degree of Aquarius and then moved back over. And so all this time it's been moving backwards, and now we're at that moment where it's starting to move forward. And it's giving us this blessing of being in the last degrees of a Capricorn to like, okay, what have we unhooked from? Like, what have we liberated ourselves for? And now we have the drive to move forward. Now it's moving forward. And not only that, it's in Capricorn, whereas like Mars is exalted in Capricorn. It's like, get the shit done. Like, actually make your changes, actually like make actionable steps, make your routine count, make this, you know, create this new foundation for which this like liberated Mars can like move forward in. So if you can go back into May and June and July and start to think about like what have you been trying to actualize in your life and what has not been moving forward. And like when you've experienced those roadblocks or the feeling of just it's not the right time or whatever, the frustrations, the anger or whatever you experience, how have those challenges affected you? Like what has it brought up inside of you? Has it brought up fear or anger, frustration? Has it brought up hopelessness and depression, like worthiness, existential crises? Like what emotions did these kind of delays bring up? And now I invite you to tap into that part of you that like has a drive to move forward and actualize, that has a drive to like give and do and create in the world. That part is our Mars. That part is our own inner like masculine, if you will. And if you can tap into that part, like what has the retrograde, what has Mars in retrograde been asking of you? What have you been seeking to liberate or change or create in your life over the past few months? Does it involve your work? Does it involve where you live? Does it involve your partner, your relationship, or your family? Where has it come up for you personally? And my last question for you is, are you in the part of the cycle of rebuilding, of liberating and actualizing that? Or are you in the part of just breaking free? Or are you in the part of just breaking down and feeling the frustration? Like, where are you in this cycle? And how can you put the intention over the next month until October 8th, when Mars fully moves back through all those degrees of Aquarius, to actually make those changes and to actually create the foundation where those changes can last inside of you, and actually like initiate your own inner masculine to be this liberated visionary that is whole and integrated instead of fractured and angry and isolated. So that, I think, is the power of Mars retrograde in Aquarius and then moving back through. I invite us all to find out how to embody your own like Aquarian liberated Mars. And another powerful player of this retrograde and of this entire year has been Saturn in Capricorn. Like in the beginning of the year, we had 5 planets in Capricorn. Like we had this huge Capricorn initiation as Saturn moved into Capricorn. And so I feel like Saturn in Capricorn is this huge player for this whole year, even 3 years. We also have Pluto and Black Moon Lilith in Capricorn to like really bring up some deep core desires and deep emotions surrounding our own authorship. And so with Saturn there, Saturn is like the tester. You know, Saturn is like, okay, I mean, I am external authority. I am the laws of nature. I am gravity. I am government. I am external other that is coming in to do things out of your control sometimes. And like, how does that interface with your own internal authority, your own internal compass, your own boundaries, your own responsibility and who you are? So I feel like Saturn moving into Capricorn has given us all this huge desire to like unhook from these unhealthy power dynamics and from these unhealthy like societal, governmental, or any external structures in our life that is keeping us victimized, that is keeping our needs from being truly met, and that is keeping us from stepping into that place of authorship that's like, I will take the responsibility, I will create the container and the boundaries for my needs, for my art, for my work, for my family, my home, all of these things to be met and to be sustained and to also be thriving in. And so with that brings up these feelings of like powerlessness and victimization, because it's like, if Saturn is the tester, it's like, oh yeah, you think you're the boss? Well, here, bam. What happens then? You think you're responsible? Boom, what happens here if I bring this boss to like give you this kind of schedule, or to bring in your mother-in-law to live with you here, or to bring in your partner to say this to you, or to do this, or whatever it is that like challenges that part of us to like be in responsibility for what we are experiencing. And Saturn moved retrograde in April. And so again, there's like, wherever it is in your chart, if you have a lot of Capricorn, or again, if you have like opposite Cancer, these places are being deeply initiated right now. My Mars is in Capricorn, and so I'm being deeply initiated by not only the Mars retrograde, but the Saturn retrograde in my Mars, in my sign. And so this is a powerful moment to see all of the places where I give my power away, how I react inside of that. What does my inner Mars do when I feel like I'm powerless? So for whatever house, again, look at those degrees of Capricorn. It went retrograde at 9 degrees of Capricorn and has gone all the way back to 2 degrees. So look from 2 degrees to 9 degrees Capricorn and see what house that falls in for you. See what planets, if you have any internal planets there are there. And that will kind of help you muse with Saturn. What is Saturn trying to teach you? What is Saturn initiating for you in this time? And so with it being retrograde, it's highlighting those challenges, those tendencies and those patterns that are so deeply entrenched, into our subconscious and into the way that we function in the world, because Saturn rules like structures and the things that we're really physically rooted and grounded in. And how do those things actually support this feeling of powerlessness and this feeling of like not having our needs met? So since April, we've come face to face with those challenges. We've come face to face with those big roadblocks inside of ourselves and seeing them come externally from the other, wherever it's coming from. And now Saturn on September 6th is starting to move direct. And so I just say that to say like, okay, whatever has happened in the last few months, like kind of go into like, where are those frustrations? Like, what is it triggered inside of you again? Like, what are those roadblocks that are coming up? How have you reacted when the other, or when that external reflection of authority and of power has challenged your ability to move in the world, your ability to create the change and the life that you want, and your ability to have your needs met, to be who you want to be in the world? And just know that this is a time now to start moving ahead with that, to start actually making those changes and get yourself out of that victim mindset if you found yourself in it, and be reinvigorated to make the changes and to move forward in creating a powerful structure in your life that supports who you are and what you want to create, and supports your energy like in a sustainable way that balances the power dynamics in your relationships and in your work and in your family. And Saturn in Capricorn invites us to step into that responsible container holder, like that part of you that's like, these are my boundaries, these are my needs. I'm going to create a space where that can be met. I'm going to create a space where that can be heard and felt. I'm going to create a space in my work. I'm going to create a space in my home. I'm going to create a space for my art, my expression, whatever is valuable to you. Like, be the one that creates that space and that like platform for it to like be seen and expressed. You know, whatever internal, you know, shame or patterns were allowing you to suppress it or to shut it down is like time to heal that shit. Time to like not, you know, internalize that oppressive thing, whatever the voice is, be it if you're too privileged or if you're not privileged enough, or whatever that inner critic inside of you that says, no, you can't have that. No, you can't do that. No, that's inappropriate. Or no, you don't get that. Other people need that. Or whatever it is. Like, it's time to allow that inner critic to be your ally. To be like, hey, all those voices inside and outside. Like, I'm going to draw you into allyship with me. I'm going to draw you into like my container, my world and my boundaries, because that's how you make yourself like an author. Like a true author of your life. Okay, so blessings as you deepen in this retrograde cycle, as we start to move forward, like honoring where we have come from, honoring all those challenges, and then like also celebrating that like, hey, we're in a different place. Like, fuck yes, it's over. And also, it's not fully over. So like, make those changes, make those steps of lasting change. And don't be afraid to like step in to that powerful creator and initiator, because you have been initiated by like Mars and Saturn in this time. So like, rock it. Rock that shit. Get it done. Be your own boss in whatever way that looks for you.